I think the important thing to remember is that the Solomon Islands and Australia are friends. We're both part of the Pacific family, and the rancor in the relationship in the moment is exactly what China sought when it negotiated this treaty. So both sides seem to be falling into the trap that China has laid. I think we need to take the heat out of the relationship, and particular from the Australian side. We just need to sit down with our friend and talk this through.
Yeah. How do you go about that? How do you take the heat out of the situation where, of course, we're in the middle of an election campaign and that's what comes. Heat comes with a relationship that's been exploded like this.
Yeah, it doesn't help that we're in the middle of that campaign. But, once that's over, the Australian government will need to engage the government of the Solomon Islands and talk through the implications of this. That's the only way we're going to get the relationship back on track. As I said, Australia and the Solomon Islands are friends. We need to talk this through.
Is it helpful that the Defence Minister, Peter Dutton, is openly saying that we should be on a war footing?
Well, those kind of descriptions are interesting when it comes to this situation. I mean, the Australian Defence Force is there in the event of war. That's just a statement of its purpose in general. But in particular, when it comes to the Solomon Islands in Australia, it's all about talking this through. Like I said, we're part of the Pacific family. We have a good relationship with the Solomon Islands, and I think at the end of the election campaign, Australia, its diplomats just need to engage with diplomats, and government links just need to be re-energised.
All right, let's go to Mariupol, which is just, it is such a confusing situation. The Kremlin says humanitarian corridors are open again, but other reports suggest that they are storming the steelworks and bombarding the steelworks where the last Ukrainian forces and civilians are holding out. How do we make sense of what Russia's trying to achieve here?
Well, sometimes in war, rage enters the equation here. Emotion, particular for Russian units that have lost a lot of soldiers, will take over. There's no real military sense in what they're trying to do. They could have cordoned off the steelworks and just left them in there. So this really is about Russian commanders lacking operational discipline, who are seeking revenge for fallen Russian soldiers. But, we shouldn't be surprised by this. We've seen a lack of discipline from the Russians all the way through this invasion.
Yeah. US and UK intelligence seems to suggest that Russia's eastern offensive is also stalling. What is your assessment of what you're seeing?
No, I think they're right on the money, and they obviously see a lot more things than we do. But it's been clear now for some time that the Russian eastern offensive, once again, they've spread their forces thinly, they've committed forces piecemeal, they haven't really concentrated on one objective, is not achieving what the Russians sought from this objective. I expect in the next week or two they may well culminate and have to cease their operations for some time to come.
That is interesting. Does it explain this ongoing and almost increased missile bombardment, particularly on Ukrainian infrastructure?
Yeah, these attacks on multiple cities, Odessa, Dnipro, and other cities, is what the Russians would call strategic operations. They're operations that are designed to impact on logistics hubs, on transportation networks, so that the Ukrainians can't sustain or resupply their forces in the field. So this is part of how the Russians do business. We just haven't seen a lot of it until now. But on the other side of this, the Russians appear to be running out of precision munitions. So how long they can keep up these mass missile strikes remains to be seen.
They also seem to be running out of generals. US intelligence seems to have been assisting Ukraine, if reports are believed, to effectively target these Russian generals. I mustn't oversimplify that, but it must be having an impact on the whole hierarchy.
Well, the United States, as General Milley said today, has opened the pipes on intelligence flow to Ukrainians. They're not providing intelligence to deliberately target certain ranks or certain people. That's not their intention, and they're very clear about that. but sometimes it just has the side effect. But it's not just American intelligence. The Russian generals have been acting lazily by using civilian communications which are not secure. And the Ukrainians have also captured some electronic warfare equipment for the Russians, which have helped target these generals as well.
Yeah. You talk about anger and rage around Mariupol. With those kind of tactics and targets, it breaks down cohesion. Would we not then see even more atrocities committed by Russian troops without any leadership?
No, I think so. I mean, we've seen this in places like Bucha and other cities. The Russians have not been very disciplined, and their soldiers have engaged in these kind of horrific acts in other places. We shouldn't be surprised if we see them again. We'll be horrified, as we should be, but the Russian military discipline has been lacking all the way through this invasion.
Russia says, the US feeding intelligence to Ukraine won't stop them achieving their goals, but they really don't seem to be achieving their goals at this point.
Yeah, it's very wishful thinking from the Russian military high command, I think. I'm not sure whether the Americans really had to feed Ukraine intelligence for the Ukrainians to give them a bloody nose in the Battle of Kiev, but it's obviously helping. It's part of the American and NATO support to Ukraine. And as with weapons, every little bit of intelligence helps.
Yeah. What should we make of the drills that Belarus is carrying out?
Very interesting, isn't it? My sense is the Russians have probably had a talk to the Belarusians and said, OK, we get it, you don't want to go in and help us invade, but can you do things in your country that will ensure the Ukrainians have forces deployed in the north of their country that they won't be able to use against the Russians in the east? So just as the Russians have been conducting demonstrations from Moldova to keep Ukrainian forces in the west, it's probably something along these lines in the north with Belarus.
Yeah, something of a distraction. Mick, always appreciate your insights. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Beth.